everyone, it's Marielle, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things related to the storytelling industry. As I mentioned in previous videos, I'm starting to incorporate a little bit of everything on this channel. Some of my paranormal stuff, some of my regular writing stuff, and then weekly vlogs, which have just been so fun for me to just pop in throughout the week and just share whatever I'm thinking of randomly and splice it all together and share with you guys. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it. But it is spooky season, so we are going to stick with our paranormal theme. And I am going to talk to you guys about how my belief in the paranormal has changed my faith and how I see grief. Now, when I first started studying the paranormal, I really thought it was just about ghosts. It was about ghosts and it was about the fear factor, right? People like getting scared, they like getting spooked out. And that's basically what all this fascination with paranormal is coming from. But after going to many, many haunted locations, talking to all kinds of people and hearing their stories, I realized that it's really not the fear factor that drives a belief in the paranormal. It is the burning question of what happens after we die. Now, as someone who was raised a Christian, I was taught growing up that paranormal and faith do not go together. All things ghosts are straight from the devil. They're sinful. You should avoid them at all costs. And I had many a preacher in the pulpit growing up tell me that I should not interact with anything paranormal because it would send me straight to hell. And I believed that. And they were very separate, right? You would go to church on Sunday and you would stay up late on Friday watching scary movies with your friends and watching all the ghost hunter shows on the cable channels. That's just how it worked. And the two just didn't mix. But as I've gotten older and I've really thought about some of the paranormal experiences I've had growing up and just hearing about all the experiences of other people, I realized that paranormal and faith do not need to be separate because they actually very much complement each other. If you think about the core belief of Christianity, and this could really count for like what any religion pretty much, it's the belief in something you can't see. And also, in Christian religion, we believe that the body is just a vessel. It's an outward shell that holds a spirit or a soul that God has created. And that when this vessel is done, that our spirit or our soul will either go to be with God in heaven or it will go to hell for punishment. That is the core belief of the religion. So I always find it really weird when I talk to other Christians about, hey, I write about paranormal. And they're like, well, you shouldn't do that because Christians don't believe in spirits. And I'm like, but don't we? But don't, isn't that actually what we believe? You know what I mean? Like, don't we actually believe that? And I find it really strange that people try to pit them against each other so much because my paranormal experiences have not detracted from my faith. In fact, they have strengthened my faith because no matter how you explain paranormal experiences, whether you believe they're real, whether you believe they're not real, whether you believe it's a demon, whether you believe it's Satan playing tricks on you, whatever it is you believe, I've had so many experiences and there's so many other people that have had experiences that it makes you think, well, something happens after you die. Maybe I don't quite know what that is. Maybe it's just scientifically explained. Maybe it's your energy. Maybe it's like, I don't know, they talk about the residual hauntings. Maybe what you're experiencing is like a tape recorder in the atmosphere and you're just getting a replay of the tape recording. Who knows what it is, right? There's so many questions about who knows what it is. But what I do know is something, something is happening. And that makes me think, well, if that exists, there has to be God. There has to be other things that exist because how else do you explain it? So to me, it strengthens my faith. Every time I have an experience, I'm like, yep, that's real. And it helps me to have more faith in God that all the things I was taught growing up are not necessarily fake. Maybe they're not exactly like I think they are, because I think we have a lot more questions about the universe than we do answers, but there's something. And that makes me feel a lot more comfort to think that when my time here on earth is done, that's not actually the end of my time here. I'm very handsy today, and I apologize for that. All right. The other thing is just talking about grief, because whenever I look into some of these more personal ghost stories, they're always connected to people, right? There's people connected, obviously, because they're ghost stories. And usually some of the most haunting and tragic paranormal cases and hauntings and stories I've heard are the ones that are connected to, like, the mother who haunts because she's looking for her children, or the child who's looking for their mother, or a family that got killed, and you can still, like, the ones that are super emotional. And I completely understand that, because if you've ever lost someone that you love, like especially if it's a family member or something, grief will make you look for signs that that person is still there. You'll look for songs that play at the right time, little tokens, a familiar scent, the light flickered, whatever. You'll start putting things together because you're looking for that sign that the person didn't leave you. And when I first started researching hauntings, I met a lot of people that would share experiences where they seen, felt, or heard a loved one. And there are tons of hauntings that are connected to that very thing. Whether or not you believe the paranormal is real, there are a lot of people that will go out and consult with mediums. They'll go to those like live shows that the mediums do. They'll watch all the TV shows. And I think they're just trying to give shape to the hope that that love they have for that person has not died, and that the connection is still there. It's not really a proof of ghosts that people are trying to accomplish. It's a proof of connection that they're trying to find. And I completely understand this, because I've lost a lot of loved ones over the years. And especially when I lost my parents, I started looking for signs that they were still around me. And I had little minor things that happened off and on. But one that really freaked me out, that I 100% think was my dad after he passed. I'll share it with you guys because it's a good story. At least to me, it's a comforting story. So anybody who's been to my house knows that I have a two-level house, and when my dad passed, he was in the lower bedrooms, I was in the upstairs bedrooms. And in my house, the way my house is made, those upstairs bedrooms are very quiet, and I always sleep with a fan anyway. So the way my house was made was, you could be in my house, rob me of everything I own, and be all the way up the stairs and into my doorway before I would realize that anybody else was in the house. That is how quiet it is. You are truly isolated up there, and it's actually not safe if somebody were to break into the house. And my dad, even when he was still alive, would always be very nervous that I was upstairs if he wasn't there. So, like, if he was in the hospital or if he was away for the night, he would say, "Hey, make sure you sleep downstairs while I'm gone, so that you're not upstairs where you can't hear something's going wrong." And so I usually would. But after he passed away, my bedroom was still upstairs. And I didn't have the heart at first to go through his things and get rid of his stuff. If you know, you know. It takes a while for you to be able to, like, go through their things. And so I was still upstairs for a couple of months after he passed. And within the first few days of him being gone, what I started noticing happening was I would hear footsteps going up the stairs to the upstairs. I also have sensor lights in my hallway because I don't have electric running to the hallway. And so there's no overhead lights. So you're going up dark stairs. So I have sensor lights that run by battery. And when they sense a person, they will turn on and light up the stairs for you. And so Rudy, I still had Rudy at the time, but he would sleep in my bedroom with me in bed. And what would happen is you would hear walking up the stairs, and all of the lights on the sensors would turn on, but there was no one there. There's no one there. And that happened multiple times a night, every single night, for months, until I moved my bedroom downstairs. There have been multiple people that have stayed in my house in those guest rooms over the years, and no one has had that experience. So I think personally that was my dad checking on me, because he knew that I was upstairs and that I was vulnerable. But since I have moved downstairs and gotten an alarm system, I don't have that anymore. I've not had that experience again. So some people could explain that away, but in my eyes, I think that was my dad checking on me because he was worried that I wasn't safe. And so I've had many experiences like that. Oh, my sister had an experience with my mother after she passed, waking her up like she used to do for her birthday. And so I can understand why other people also look for those signs because I too have noticed things that are like, that's definitely mom or dad, even though you know they're physically not here anymore. It also changed how I view grief because I find paranormal experiences to actually be comforting in my grief because I know that somewhere the person I love still exists. Maybe I don't know where they're at, maybe I don't know how it works, but I believe that they are not truly gone. They are somewhere. And because they are somewhere, I didn't really lose them. So yeah, I love a good ghost story. And for me, it's not really, again, trying to prove the afterlife. It's not the fear factor. It is a belief in people. It's answering a lot of my unanswered questions. It helps me have a better understanding of this life, what happens after this life. And it gives me hope that all of the time and effort and all of the love that I put out into the universe is never truly lost because it still exists somewhere in some form. And on some of my harder days, that gives me a lot of comfort. And I hope it gives other people comfort as well. And I think that's why so many people love paranormal. It just makes us feel like there's hope at the end of all of this mess. And that no matter how much pain and hurt and grief we've gone through, that person we love is still there somewhere. And that if we try hard enough, we might be able to reach them. So if you've ever had an experience that makes you question things, or if you are also someone who's like trying to find the balance between believing in things that go bump in the night and believing in your faith, I would love to hear from you. Please share your comments below. Let's open a conversation. Keep it classy in the comments, as always. And if you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.